I wrote something that basically, sorry, my manuscript. I'm doing the audiobook version. It's a little bit longer, but it will iron out some points in here that I didn't actually get to elaborate on. And also, there are some errors, some publisher errors that I've had to go over with my publisher to get those looked at. So my apologies. Being the first time, and I really shouldn't do that because I am professional in another area, professional actor, moving into a different career as a newbie. But moving on from that, in regards to the social issues of the day, especially because we're dealing with COVID-19, the latest conversations around the world, whether they be heated, are in regards to the World Health Organization. And I know I'm brandishing this, and I should probably be all like this, not like this, and all like this, but come on, Dolly, get it. Oh, come on, Dolly, get it. Oh, come on, Dolly, get it. Oh, come on, Dolly. I will grow up in literally about a minute, because this is a serious subject. But the subject is the World Health Organization and various leaders around the world, especially in America where I live, in regards to the information that they had distributed from China about coronavirus, COVID-19. Some of the papers that they sent out, it's been interpreted in many, many, many different ways. Now, those of you that know the phrase, it's been interpreted in many, 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 many different ways, will probably understand that what I'm actually trying to say is that they have given out very simple and plain language, but certain words that have different meanings, which can be used in various contexts, give the whole paper a different interpretation, a different meaning. So without picking out words, what I'm just going to do, because I don't have the paper in front of me, and I've been researching from their website, but also from experts of GPs. I've tried to do a few from around the globe and just get a take as to what they are unhappy with and how they view the paper, and then kind of like go back and digest for myself and just think to myself, if I was seeing my own doctor or therapist and they just gave me like a brief note in regards to how I am supposed to take a certain prescribed medication and go into a certain aspect of, let's say, it's called quarantine, but let's just use another word, which is to a recuperation period, or a hibernation period, or a relaxation period, or a rest period, or an away period, or a distance period, which is physical distancing. This is what I've suggested. The main theme of this argument that is going around is that basically a few bodies are trying to distribute blame as to who is to blame for the financial stress, which is the economics and the death toll in regards to this pandemic. And the reason that they're doing that is because they're trying to figure out which way, i.e., which plan, which strategy, which effective route, which idea, which routine, which, etc., etc., would have been best for everyone throughout the world. And when I say everyone throughout the world, I really do mean like everyone throughout the world, like each country, like people throughout the world. They are looking at it as a world thing. And when I say a world thing, I mean everything that revolves around human beings, for human beings, by human beings, with human beings. So it's the world. What I was thinking is that the World Health Organization wasn't really thinking like that. They were thinking about something that basically will just come in and will naturally die out within literally within a short space of time. That is what I'm gathering. So I'm going to read my own conclusion personal statement, because I am doing what is called another book, but it's in audio form. And it's a bit of, because I find that a lot of my friends are doing this as well, and a lot of people that I know are doing this as well. And it's almost as if it's a personal diary of living this situation, because there's a lot of this actually what I'm doing, which is of like all these feelings and thoughts are roaming through, but it's just whether or not it's the right thing to say or the appropriate thing to say, because right and appropriate are, like I said, different meanings. So in regards to this argument, because I really do think it's very, very important, and I'm going to just put this down, but it's very important to discuss this, and just basically just give a different feel to those people that are reading the papers, or if they don't get the papers from the World Health Organization, they are getting information maybe in bits, because it all comes from that, from other news sources. So, July 25th, 2020. This, for me, I've turned it into a film pitch, a treatment pitch. So this is what I would call a historical film treatment pitch. An interpretation of the World Health Organization and its conclusions of how to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic since Chinese New Year 2020. I am just going to stick to that date. There are previous elusive dates, but for now we'll just stick to that date, because there's a big reason, because we are, as a society, a world society, are being told off for the social distancing, physical distancing aspect of this COVID pandemic. So, from what I have been researching, I've come to the conclusion that the World Health Organization did not, under any circumstances, want world poverty. So, by them asking, and I mean it, by them not asking, because I made that mistake, by them not asking or insisting on a straightforward quarantine or ban from China, they were asking that each country around the world be informed from the World Health Organization that this infection had occurred in China, and the current events in China was a mass community event, which people will and be everywhere throughout China, and that, meaning the novelty, will wear off. The mass event was Chinese New Year. The novelty wearing off is basically it's herd, everyone will be infected, i.e. the Sweden syndrome. A vaccination will come up soon, and then also it may cancel itself out, and then also the climate and weather and stuff. Carrying on from that, the WHO were under the assumptions that these countries around the world would inform the people who came from China what the situation was, and that a routine medical check would be needed before they leave customs and go home. I'm going to discuss customs in a little bit later, but before they leave customs and go home. This in itself would have prevented world depression, be the financial and death loss from the virus. Naturally, this is the herd mentality and physical distancing medical practice in laws. I already kind of somewhat explained it in regards to Sweden. Most countries, unfortunately, with a lot of protests and things of that nature, you can compare that to the Chinese New Year, and you'll probably gauge and understand what the doctors were and the World Health Organization were referring to. Okay, so the above would have had the so-called testing information needed at greater numbers to create each country's own immediate vaccinations. Right now, this month, there's been a lot of conversations about vaccination. There are a few of them that are kind of a bit like this, but then there are some, like a handful, that apparently are very promising. I can't remember the actual name of it, but it's been like a UK manufacturing company has come up with something. When you go through customs, by the way, you are stopped by a customs officer for many, many, many different reasons. So what the World Health Organization was thinking is that this could have been one of the reasons, meaning when you go through customs and you get your bags and all that palaver and all that stuff, or even before that, you have to do all that, show your visas, your passports, and all that kind of stuff. They find out where you're coming from and welcome you into the country and all that. They would have seen your last place of travel, and if your last place of travel was China, they would have, in hopefully a hospitable customer service way, pulled you aside and just explain the situation that was going on over there and what the requirements were or are for, i.e. coming into certain countries, because I'm going to go into this in a minute. The hysteria of people is what the World Health Organization was afraid of, okay? For me personally, the hysteria of people is truly what the World Health Organization was afraid of. And as far as I'm concerned, they felt that hysteria would be a hindrance to the relationship with, most importantly and prominently, the country of where the virus started, and others who don't necessarily take the advice of the World Health Organization, but they do read the reports. I'm not going to go into this because I do have political opinions, but I'm not stupid. I really do understand, because sometimes I do this myself. Sometimes I'm like, yeah. Okay, I don't really like such and such, but yeah, I'll listen to the advice. That in myself said something. So, going back over that statement from me, my own conclusion, because this virus, we have been told two things, one consciously and the other subconsciously: respiratory and stress. Stress leads to respiratory. The hysteria of people is what the World Health Organization was afraid of and thought it may hinder the relationships with, most prominently, the country of the virus and others who don't necessarily take the advice of the World Health Organization, but will look at the reports. It's natural for us Westerners, okay? It really is. It's natural for us Westerners to be told by a doctor, I don't care what you call your doctor could be a general practitioner, a doctor, a therapist, whoever it is that writes your notes and your prescriptions and says take this to your workplace and you get your statutory sick pay, or you get your sick pay, or you get your time off, or you get blah 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 blah. It is natural for us Westerners, us Western societies, to be told by a doctor to stay off work for X amount of time, right? And get a doctor's note and the necessary prescriptions. The WHO, the World Health Organization, they were weighing up just two things. They were weighing up the cost of finances and the cost of people's lives by not stopping transportation in the way that they have done now. And when I say this, I mean this. When it first happened, they didn't under any circumstances feel that there was any need to basically do this. Put a complete ban and quarantine on China and tell the rest of the world to go into a quarantine stage. They really felt like the world did not need to financially go into what we would call a depression, an economic ruin, bankruptcy, all those negatives for, like the saying, I ain't got shit. That they really, from my opinion, because I have looked at some of the papers, but from looking at the paperwork, listening to the discussions and the professionals, and hearing the so-called heated conversations, I felt like they really actually didn't want to do that, because they in their mind, maybe not as an organization, because a lot of people have turned around and said that organization is a bit shitty, but the people within it, there are some decent people within it, and that unfortunately is something now that is kind of like, if it's not within almost every corporation, it might be within every other business, because I can say that about my industry that I'm in. I'm a professional actor, so I can say that about my industry. But the thing is that it's one of those things, like, as an organization, they may have had some real fucking hard problems. We call it red tape, but they may have had some real shitty problems. But there were some individuals in there that had some bloody common sense, and they just really thought there's no need to shut the world down. All there is the need to get certain things out, keep the flow of the activity of life, meaning the activity of life, the general everyday activity of people, keep that going. But to advise those that are coming, because it's a transient situation, travellers, migration, the back and forth of movement. That's why the big emphasis on physical distancing, social distancing. It's that, to keep, just to keep everyone moving, but not moving in like what I said, hysterical, which is like major stress levels. Not that at all. Not that at all. Going back to what I was saying, it's unfortunate, okay? It's very, very unfortunate. So, unfortunately, my question is this. If I feel that that is the message, the true message of the World Health Organization, I'm asking myself and other people, what is lacking at customs? And I really mean this. What is lacking at customs of each country regarding circumstances like this? Now, when I say customs, and I'm not talking to ignorant people, because I'm not assuming that everyone's ignorant now. I'm giving a lot of people some room and the benefit of the doubt. So when I say customs, I'm meaning these because it's traveling, okay? So it's traveling by airplane, meaning airports, boats, you've got your docks, trains, you got your major train stations and stuff. And then the most common thing is by car, which is the border controls and the crossings. Say whatever you want about how I see geography between traveling from China to certain aspects of the world. But as you can tell, I'm European, and someone's going to put two and two together and go, most Europeans can actually travel around Europe via just a train. And also, it's really possible to travel via car. Just like if you live in the United States, you really can just travel through the country via a car and go to certain parts of the Americas via a car. But there are still borders everywhere. There are still borders everywhere, meaning there are still customs everywhere. There are still custom officials everywhere. Doesn't matter if it's a big airport all the way down to a border crossing, a toll crossing. This is the scenario that I was looking at and I feared from the beginning, but I actually felt that they should have done this at the beginning. But now listening to the argument and going over the paperwork, there's something about why they didn't do it at the beginning, and I just don't want to get into it just yet because I'm still trying to do this whole thing of floating around with all this information, seeing if I can basically just figure out just some fact before it goes off into other forms of interpretations and definitions and conclusions and stuff. This scenario has happened, but not in the way that I actually have written it out. And it's not like I've sat here and I've wrote out the stuff.